Namaskar all of you. Welcome to this session. So we were discussing the intuitive knowledge of a yogi. We discussed also the esoteric anatomy, physiology, the role of heart in spiritual process, role of Kantakupa in spiritual process. And what we came to a point was that when the spiritual knowledge dawns, called Viveka Khyati, Atma Gnanam, Purusha Gnanam, there is a twilight condition. Like we have twilight condition before sunrise. And the Prativa Jnanam in yoga had reference to the dawn of ultimate knowledge, pinnacle point of knowledge called Viveka Khyati, called Atma Sakshatkar, and that gives rise to Sarva Jnanam, Sarvajnatrutvam. So that's the yogi's intuition. It is not our intuition that we have. The mortals have intuitions now and then, but the yogi's intuition is on the rise of, before the rise of rather, pinnacle culminative knowledge called Viveka Khyati. So before Atma Gnana, there is this kind of siddhi of the nature of pratibhadva sarvam, as the sutra mentioned, and we discussed about that. But incidentally came mention about this Atma Gnanam, Purusha Gnanam, Atma Sakshatkar, pinnacle point of knowledge. What is that? That comes in Sutra 3.35. Sattva Purusha Yoho Atyanta Asankirna Yoho Pratyaya Avishesho Bhogaha Pararthat Swartha Samyamat Purusha Gnanam. So, this is Sattva Purusha Anyata Khyati. What we are discussing as Viveka Khyati is Sattva Purusha Anyata Khyati. Now, Sattva Purusha are absolutely, totally, completely distinct. And not only distinct, but asankirna yoho, that there can be no mix-up. So Bodhisattva and Purusha are absolutely, essentially, substantially different from each other. But as we have seen in the case of Vritti Sarupyam and the Maya, which was often spoken about, the two distinct become seemingly identical. So when they become seemingly identical, that is mentioned in the word Pratyaya Avisheshaha. We do not see the distinctions, we do not see the Visheshatvam of Sattva and Purusha, but we see Avisheshatvam, that is indistinction, and that is really called Bhoga in Paramartha, in Adhyatma. That is because of Pararthat. The Bodhisattva, the Chitta, the mind is Parartha. It is an object for Purusha. It is in subserviency of Purusha. But when it is indistinctly taken, that is the Bhoga that we have in the gravity of Maya. But Yogi has Swartha Samyama. And by Swartha Samyama, he gets Purusha Jnanam. That is how there is a dawn of that spiritual wisdom, spiritual knowledge, spiritual discrimination called Viveka Khyati or Sattva Purusha Nida Khyati. So the sutra tells us how the bhoga is. The bhoga is because of indistinction between the Purusha Tattva and Buddhi Sattva. As long as there is indistinction, that is going to be bhoga, and that is going to give us the experience of pain, pleasure, delusion, etc. But Yogi does the samyama on the swartha, swa-artha. So by swartha samyama, the swa and its artha, the real purpose of the swa is to either take experience of the world or experience the spiritual entity of Atma, Purusha. So Swa Artha Samyamat, by Samyama on the Swa Artha, the Purusha Jnana emanates. So that is what the sutra is telling us. Vyasa opens out the purport. Buddhi sattvam prakhyashilam samana sattva upadibandhane rajaha tamasi vashikhrutya sattva purusha anyata pratyena parinatam. The buddhi sattva is that pristine prakriti in microcosm. And then it is more sattvic, but it has unexceptional touch and contact and influence of Rajatama gunas. So it is always coexisting with Rajatama gunas. But in a yogic process, the Rajatama gunas are suppressed, and then comes the Purusha Buddhi Vivekam. So that is the yogic process, that Rajatama gunas are kept away from the Buddhi Sattva, they are suppressed and depressed, and therefore the Sattva guna exalts in Buddhi Sattva, and then that gives the discriminative discernment called Viveka Khyati or Sattva Purusha Anyata Khyati. Tasmacha Sattvat Parinamino Atyant Vidharma Vishuddho Anya Chitimatra Rupaha Purushaha. And that gives revelation that what was mistakenly taken as the subjective entity of me and pronoun I, now that having been purified, it is realized that it is totally distinct. Vidharmi, Vijatiya, it is totally distinct than Purusha Tattva. The I is totally different than the substrate of I. And the Bodhisattva, which gives the seemingly conscious experience of itself, veils the Purusha Jnanam. But with the yogic process, the Rajatama gunas are separated, and then yogi realizes that I, pronoun I, the me, essentially is Vishuddha, Chinmatra, Chaitanya Matra. I am only principle of consciousness, and not the consciousness which is like a rainbow, which is prismatic. So there yogi gets that experience that I am just the principle of consciousness, Chinmatra Rupam, Chaitanya Matram. So there it is realized that essentially that Atma Tattva is totally distinct. That's the basis of Viveka Khyati or Sattva Purusha Anyata Khyati. And then the Buddhi is there to subserve the purpose of Purusha, Purushasya Darshita Vishayatvat. So, the two entities, Buddhi and Purusha, are totally distinct. Actually, they are totally distinct and different. But there happens the mixed state. There is a mix-up, and they appear with ekatva rupam. They appear to be one and the same. That is called bhoga, that is called mundanity, that is called worldliness, which is subsuming us. And Buddhi actually is just darshita vishaya, means it is actually there to just offer the experiences to Purusha. Sabhogaha, that is bhoga. When it is offering the experiences to Purusha, that is bhoga. Sabhoga pratyayaha sattvasya pararthatvad drushyaha. Therefore it is drushya, seen category, and pararthatva. There is pararthatva in it. That is, it is for someone else. And that someone else is the spiritual entity metaphysically. So, Buddhi is therefore called para-artha. It is meant for someone else. The Buddhi doesn't have its own function. It is there to offer the experience to Purusha in the gravity of mundanity and worldliness. That's why it is called para-artha. And therefore the Purusha Tattva becomes swa-artha. It has its own purpose. And that's why this concept of swa-artha and para-artha are to be understood in the sutra. Yastu tasmat vishishta chitimatra rupo anyaha paurusheya pratyayaha tatra samyamat purusha vishaya pragnya jayate. So now the yogi is in a position to have samyama, the samadhi process on the swa-artha. And therefore, Purusha Vishaya Pragnya Jayate. Therefore, he gets that intuitive mystic knowledge of Purusha Tattva, what is called as Atma Sakshatkar. So, intuitive mystic knowledge of the Purusha by Samadhi process takes place. And that is the self-realization. So, the point is, with the self-realization, we were told that several exalted knowledges come to the yogi. Now, they are mentioned in the Sutra 3.36. So, when it is Atma realization, Purusha realization or self-realization, it is not just self-realization. Along with self-realization, there are several glories, and those glories are pratipajnana. They happen like a twilight condition before the dawn of sakshatkar. Therefore, Patanjali says in this Sutra 3.36, tataha. What is the effect by what the 35th Sutra mentioned? Purusha Jnanam Tataha Pratibha Shravana Vedana Adarsha Aswad Varta Jayante. So yogi gets Divya Jnanam. Pratibha Jnanam is Divya Jnanam. And we discussed this in one of the previous sutras, that those are Divya Shravya, Divya Sparsha, Divya Darshana, Divya Gandha, Divya Rasa. supernormal perceptions of the nature of audition, tactile perception, visual perception, olfactory perception, and gustatory perception. You should recall that we had discussed these on an earlier occasion. So they are called Divya, Swargiya, celestial, superhuman experience of all these five perceptions. Therefore they are called Divya Shravya, Divya Sparsha, Divya Darshana, Divya Gandha, Divya Rasa. You should also recall that they were referred to as Shravana Samvit, Sparsha Samvit, Drushya Samvit, Gandha Samvit, and Rasa Samvit. The word Samvit also is a technical term that has come for Divya category. So, yogi is able to get all those experiences which are celestial and not terrestrial. And they all are had on the terrestrial plane. Yogi doesn't go to those planes, but where he is, he gets all these experiences. Because the human organs have lots of limitations. In Adhyatma it is referred to as charma chakshu, for the eyes. That means it has limitations, human limitations to eyes. We cannot be sighting something which is outside the range provided for visual organ. So all our senses have a human limitation, mortal limitations. Anything outside that limit goes beyond all these senses. Now those barriers are broken to have the Divya Shravana, Divya Sparsha, Divya Darshana, Divya Gandha, Divya Rasa. So that is what the sutra is mentioning. Tataha Pratibha Shravana Vedana Adarsha Aswad Varta Jayante. So these are five technical terms for what we just now described as Divya Shravana, Divya Sparsha, Divya Darshana, Divya Gandha, Divya Rasa. So all those human barriers are broken. That's why yogi has this great power which is discussed in psychology as ESP in parapsychology, extrasensory perceptions, superhuman perceptions. So that is something referred to as parapsychology in modern psychology. And Adhyatma has mention about such abilities in exceptional conditions. So these are five exceptional powers. Cognitive powers or sensory powers of the five senses. One should recall in Bhagavad Gita also in the 11th chapter when it is a time for Vishwarupa Darshanam, Krishna realizes Arjuna will not be able to see my cosmic form, universal form, endless form, and therefore he says, I will give you Divya Chakshu. You will not be able to sight all these by mortal eyes. And therefore Bhagavan grants him Divya Chakshu, and then he says, behold my infinite form, endless form, unimaginable form. Now that is the Divya Chakshu. Now here yogi gets not only Divya Chakshu but also Divyatvam in other four organs as well, other four sense organs as well. So all these five senses can have Divyatvam, and that is what this Viveka Khyati bestows to a yogi. So samadhi judgment does not just bestow self-realization, but these superhuman powers in knowledge. Therefore, yogi is capable of getting divya jnanam, trikala jnanam, trailokya jnanam, sukshma jnanam, vyavahita jnanam, viprakrushtha jnanam, atindriya jnanam. So trikala jnana means knowledge about all the three times, prospective, retrospective, as well as the present. So nothing puts a limit. For us, we have limitations. We cannot have knowledge of the past and knowledge of the future, which is a known fact. But yogi breaks these barriers and he gets trikala jnana. Jnana of all the three time zones. We get only knowledge of the present, but he gets knowledge of the past and knowledge of the future as well. That's called trikala jnanam. So also trailokya jnanam. Trailokyam, the three planes of creation, which are celestial, terrestrial, infernal, or terrestrial, extraterrestrial, and infernal. So these are referred to as trailokyam. He gets trailokya jnana. Being where he is, he gets the trailokya jnanam. So also he gets sukshma jnanam. Sukshma jnana means knowledge in the realm of the subtle, in the realm of all that is inaccessible to senses. That is sukshma jnanam. Cannot be seen, cannot be heard, cannot be smelled, cannot be touched, cannot be tasted. Such supernormal level of jnanam in the realm of subtle. It is because of the subtlety we don't have all these knowledges. So also vyavahita jnanam. It is because of concealment or being veiled we don't have so many knowledges. We cannot see what is beyond the wall because the wall is veiling the vision for what is lying beyond the wall. That's called vyavahita jnanam. Yogi breaks these barriers. He gets the X-ray eyes, if I have to say in our modern man's language and parlance. Viprakrushtha jnanam. Viprakrushtha means remote objects. Those who are very, very remote objects, we cannot be getting knowledge, the sensory knowledge. But the yogi can now get sensory knowledge of viprakrushtha domain. That is remote, absolutely remote. So also atindriya jnanam. There are many things which are beyond the sensory perception and grasp. That is called atindriya. So this is a fabulous siddhi, the pratibha jnanam, which gives yogi trikala jnanam, trailokya jnanam, sukshma jnanam, vyavahita jnanam, viprakrushtha jnanam, atindriya jnanam. So there are no barriers. And that's why they are called divya anubhuti. And these siddhis can be available to him sarvatha, sarvada, sarvashaha. So these powers can be available to yogi all the time, any time, every time, anywhere, and absolutely, completely, with no deficiencies. So, when yogi gets such a power, what happens in the world? If people realize that he is an exceptional person and has superhuman powers, just as the flies sit on sweet meats, people gather around him. And they start calling him Swami, Maharaj, Devarshi, or Bhagavan. So all these predicates get stuck to him. And people want solutions from such a person, problems which are very mundane, very worldly, very trivial problems. And then the wealth just gets collected around the feet of such a master, such a mystic, such a guru, sadguru, or such a saint, or such Bhagwan. And they become his devotees. Rather than becoming devotees of divinity, they become devotees of such a person. Therefore, we come across in the Puranas and even Upanishads mention that such a yogi, for his own safety, to be saved from the worldly allurements, he starts behaving like a child, innocent child. He starts deliberately behaving as if he is vikshipta, strange person, so that he can safely move in the world. But if he moves genuinely, showing the world that I am superhuman, then the yogi has a problem. And therefore, there are cases when such mystic people have moved in the world, showing that they are weird persons, lunatic persons, childish, so that they are safely able to move in the world. They can be getting rid of what is called as loka sangraha. Otherwise, people get around such a person. So, this is because they have such superhuman powers, and therefore they can be vulnerable, they can be falling as prey to the worldly allurements. Anyway, so that is what this sutra is telling us. Tataha pratibha shravana vedana adarshat aswad varta jayante. So he can get these celestial perceptions. And shravanam means divya shravanam. It is almost as if he has access, like we have the radio set where we can be tuning to a radio station 10,000 miles away from where we are. So he has a universal radio station and a radio set to tune to these universal radio stations. It could be other lokas, Bhuhu, Bhuva, Suvaha, Maha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam, Brahmaloka. So he has Paraloka radio. He is able to hear to the broadcasts which take place in all the other planes. So that is Shravana. And the Vedana is that he is able to sense all those. So every kind of extrasensory perception is mentioned here. And Patanjali doesn't fail to show a red signal to such a yogi that getting such powers can endanger him and the yogi can really have a fall. So the point is, these are the siddhis which come with the Atma Jnanam. So we saw what is Pratibha Jnanam, the siddhis of Pratibha Jnanam, the glorious Pratibha Jnanam, and then Divya Shravanam, Divya Vedanam, Divya Adarsha, Divya Aswad, and Divya Varta. So he has, as I said on an earlier occasion, he has universal wide web seers, sage, rishis, munis, yogis, jnanis, bhaktis.org. So he is able to log on to any of these websites of yogis, jnanis, bhaktas, because that is universe-wide website, unlike our worldwide website. But then, as I said, Patanjali cautions that such a person, such a yogi, can be allured by celestial beings, and therefore the fall is possible. But of course this is going to come in a later sutra, so we are not going to discuss with it. The point is, by Atma Jnanam he gets certain avantara siddhis, and that is what we discussed here with the help of Sutra 3.36. So with that, we will be ending this topic, and we will be embarking upon a topic which is a siddhi of the nature of yogi entering somebody else's embodiment. This is called parakaya pravesha. So he leaves his own body and enters the body of another person and get the experience of what that person has in the life. This is called parakaya pravesham. So that is the next siddhi that we will be considering. Anyway, this session ends here. Namaskar all of you.